doing an invention. It's priority.
And the only way to do great work is to love what you do.
Live life as though everything is rigged in your favor.
Ignore the noise. Have faith in yourself. Recognize that you are an entrepreneur.
From the campus of the University of Maryland's Robert H. Smith School of Business, the Dingman Center for Entrepreneurship presents Bootstrapped.
Welcome to the 5th season of Bootstrapped, a Dingman Center podcast. I'm Ilana Fine.
And I'm Joe Bailey.
And as our loyal listeners know, each episode of Bootstrap features a funder or founder from the Dingman Center and University of Maryland community. Today we have Steven Steinberg, the CEO and founder of Raw Athletics. Welcome, Steven.
Thank you for having me.
And I should have added, Steven is a 2010 economics grad from the University of Maryland.
Yes.
So, Steven, we have so much to talk about in this session. We've been prepping here for a few minutes, and so I want to just dig right in. So, talk to us really, kind of go back to 2010. You're graduating from Maryland. What problem did you see in the market?
So I played on the club hockey team at Maryland, and we were on the ice 3 or 4 times a week. And so 3 or 4 times a week, I was airing out my hockey equipment in my tiny dorm room. And for anyone that's ever been around hockey equipment, you know how bad that smells. So amplifying that in a small dorm room.
Don't mention which dorm, because there's going to be some angry parent moved their kid into that dorm room.
And so I needed something to clean and deodorize my pads. And there was really nothing on the market. I tried a couple things, and they either just didn't work, or they left rashes on me, or they made my equipment feel rough and uncomfortable. And I just needed something that cleaned my pads. And I was always into health and wellness and natural lifestyles and natural cleaning products. So I had a general idea of what I was looking for. And I did a lot of research and a lot of trial and error. And I just basically made a couple small batches of a cleaning product that eventually worked on my own equipment. And that's how the first product was started.
I mean, when you're economics, you're not chemistry, you're not, anything that kind of would lend it to kind of create this new cleanser. I mean, how did you do that? How did you figure that out?
There's actually a lot of information in libraries and online on how to formulate cleaning products. And like I said, it was a lot of guess and check. I probably went through a full semester of making batches until I finally got something that worked on my own equipment.
I'm picturing like Breaking Bad right now. Just so you know.
Very close, very close.
Okay, and so obviously your roommate was probably excited about this working out. But who else did you pull in as resources to kind of help you figure out what would go into making a laundry detergent?
Sure. So actually, the laundry detergent came much later. Actually. Basically how it started was once I had a product that worked. This was about the same time that Dingman Center was ramping up on campus, and they really advertised, even if you have a really rudimentary idea, just come in with the idea on the back of a napkin if you have to and just talk it out. And that's literally what I did. And I ended up winning one of the pitch Dingman competitions for a little startup funding to make a really small batch of product, and I sent out free samples to some of the ACC equipment managers. This is when we were still in the ACC.
Yep. Those were the days. And I got really good feedback from them and even some purchase orders, and that's kind of how the business started. That's how Raw Athletics actually started.
So what does the product look like in these days?
Oh, we went through 4 iterations of packaging up until now.
But it's commercial packaging, right? You're not selling, in Giant or Safeway. You're selling to athletic equipment managers, right?
So historically, we've been commercial sales. We sell to big gyms and fitness centers, college athletic recreation centers, high school, college, professional sport teams. Recently, we've been moving or expanding our scope into the consumer product. Today, we kind of Raw Athletics is basically we develop and sell high-performance green cleaning products specifically for the sports and fitness industry, all under the brand name Vapor Fresh. So that includes things like disinfecting gym wipes. When you're at the gym, you grab a wipe to clean down the equipment. We make a green version of those. We have the cleaning spray that people use to clean hockey equipment, football pads, yoga mats, shoes, boxing gloves.
And was that the first product that you were saying you were working on in your dorm room?
That was the first
spray.
product.
Okay.
First product. Yeah.
Okay.
So right now our big three are the gym wipes, the botanically based cleaning spray, and the laundry detergent. Those are our big three.
And so when you were first starting out, did you see the differentiator being that it was more sustainable, or it worked better, or both?
Both. So that's the thing we like to. That's our big messaging, that typically when people think of green cleaning products or natural cleaning products, they think they have to sacrifice some of the cleaning power to get those benefits, and we're trying to bring to the market that that's not the case. You can have the best of both worlds.
And so did you see, sounds like you were first going for the equipment. Is that kind of in the space, is that easier than the clothing? Or not easier, but is that just, why did you go there first?
It was the easiest to bring to market, and it was honestly the first. I mean, it was just the first product. It was purely out of need. And actually, the products that came after that, so the spray we were selling that was our only product for a couple years, and we had good relationships with a lot of the college equipment managers, and eventually they would ask, oh, well, we buy a lot of laundry detergent. Do you have laundry detergent? And that's kind of how we expanded our scope from there, just based on what our customers were asking for.
All right, so good job on listening to customers. That's what we teach our students all the time. But how do you figure out pricing, marketing, distribution, pivoting into new opportunities?
So that's a lot. Pricing. So with a lot of cleaning products, at least in our industry, it's basically as much as we want to think our product's completely different than everything else out there, people think of cleaning products as a commodity-based product, so it's very price-driven.
Are they looking at Febreze or something like that and trying to figure out your price point relative to that?
Exactly, yeah. And then on top of that, you have people buying in different volumes, so you need to worry about volume pricing. You have distribution, so obviously your distributors purchase at a lower price and then resell it to someone else. So
you're not making your dorm room by this point. You actually have, do you have your own factory? You're contract manufacturing? How's that working?
Yeah, so everything's made in America. We use contract manufacturers, mainly in the Midwest. The gym wipes and the laundry detergent are made in Wisconsin, and the cleaning spray is made in Indiana now, all at contract manufacturers.
So let me dig into that, because this is we were talking before the show, is that this is actually a major hurdle for a lot of the companies that want to do what you did, kind of transition from being a student entrepreneur winning pitch dingman competitions with what they can make in their dorm room or in their apartment to trying to sell at scale. And the first question they always come and ask is, how can I manufacture this? Where can I manufacture it? And how do I find someone to help me with it? Can you talk us through that path for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So finding the right contract manufacturer, there's so many variables to think about.
Maybe just if you could define contract manufacturer for those who might not know.
Sure. So obviously when you're making let's say cleaning products at scale, you need a manufacturing facility that can automatically mix your mixture, fill bottles, cap them, package them, send them out, fulfill them. And unless you want to put the capital into making your own warehouse, there's what's called contract manufacturers that you can reach out. They have the facilities, they have the logistics in place, and you basically come to them with a formulation, or they help you basically work out the kinks of your formulation to put it at scale, and then they help you manufacture it.
And so when we're talking at scale for your product, so we've got in front of us, if you're watching, the Vapor Fresh product and stuff. I mean, what kind of production run are we talking about for a product like this?
For small pilot batches, are we talking dollar amounts?
Just kind of how many units are being produced?
Somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 would be the smallest you could probably look at.
Yeah, that sounds like more than just a little bit of a pilot. I mean, clearly, if you're launching this new product, you've got to have customers lined up, distribution channels. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. So there's a lot of contract manufacturers out there, and they all kind of have their special niche. And I guess to go back to your initial question of how would a student entrepreneur kind of make that leap, you kind of just have to, I would narrow it down to maybe 5 or 10 that you think may be good fits after Google searching, let's say like liquid contract manufacturers or cleaning supply contract manufacturers. Narrow it down to 5 or 10 and just have initial phone calls with them. Ask them, you're not going to know what questions to ask until they start asking you the questions, and then you kind of start working out the process in your head. And you're going to have a lot of those phone calls until you narrow down the right one. And even once you start working with someone, you might realize a year down the line that they can't scale with you, or they don't have the right machinery or whatever you need. And you can always change as long as you own the formulation. But it's definitely a learning process. It's not one of those things you can kind of do your due diligence beforehand and just say, this is the one I'm going with. You need to have the phone calls with them. You need to ask them questions. And that's kind of how you're going to learn what you need. And then you can kind of go from there.
Did you ever have to change the design of the packaging or the composition of the materials because of the capabilities of your contract manufacturer?
Not too much. So the cleaning spray was the only one where we went from literally making it in my dorm room to a contract manufacturer. Everything else, we had the funding and the cash flow to be able to launch at least a small pilot batch to bring it to market, and we already had the customers in place, so we had a decent, good idea of what they were looking for. We had the right price point, so we minimized our risk from that standpoint.
What were the milestones you had hit with the spray to let you know that you were ready to manufacture 5,000 to 10,000 units? How many places were you selling into?
So I kind of took a leap of faith there, but it basically came down to I was up very late at night, almost every day, making them by hand, and I was still a student, and I had internships, so it was just not sustainable. And then you find the right manufacturer that's willing to make a small production run for you, and then gradually grow from there.
You're paying for all the contract manufacturing ahead of time. You're keeping inventory, and then you're making the cash flow is coming in only after you've paid for all the inventory.
All that is negotiable, and it really comes down to what they want and what you negotiate with them. Some of them, especially in the beginning, you're going to find a hard time for people not asking for money up front. Eventually, once you have a relationship with them, you can get net 30 or half upfront net 30.
And so, did you stick with the first contract manufacturer you were with? It sounds like there might be a story there.
Yeah, we've been through a lot,
okay.
And it was no one's fault. It's just it comes down to scaling up and making sure that they have the machinery that you need. Like, for example, Amazon has very strict guidelines on packaging, especially for liquids, because you don't want something leaking in a package that also contains a laptop or something. But we didn't. These are like small details you would never realize until you're like way far into the selling process, if not already on the market.
Until your liquid leaks onto a laptop.
Exactly. So some manufacturers have automatic packing where they can put individual bottles into a bag. Some don't. So if you start with one that's putting these bottles in by hand, you're not going to get the most efficient pricing, and you're going to have to switch to someone that has the automated process for the specific configuration that you're looking for. And like I said, those are things you could never forecast unless you just go out and do it.
And so in the evolution of your company, so you're making the spray, things are going well. The equipment managers start to say, hey, I also would like wipes. Or you mentioned they asked for laundry detergent. How did you decide what the next product was going to be?
So the spray was our first and only product for a very long time. At that point, we were selling mainly to high school, college, and professional sport teams. And on top of cleaning sprays, they went through a lot of laundry detergent. So once I heard 2 or 3 times that, do you have a laundry detergent? I said, no, but let me get back to you on that. And then we eventually launched that. And then those were our only 2 products for a while. And then we kind of expanded our scope out from just professional college, high school sport teams into gyms, athletic facilities, stuff like that. And they're using gym wipes. And that's when we expanded into that. And then...
I mean, you say expanded like it's not a big deal. I mean, how do you develop kind of relationships? I mean, how important is word of mouth? What are the steps to go ahead and grow?
So it really depends on what product you're talking about and what kind of regulations are behind it. So for a cleaning spray and a laundry detergent, as long as you're careful with the claims that you're making, there's really not too many regulations you have to worry about. It really just comes down to branding and logistics and pricing. For our disinfecting gym wipes, without getting too into the weeds, anytime you start making a disinfecting claim or sanitizing claim, you get EPA involvement. And that's a very costly process and time-intensive process. So that was a little different process. But as long as you know what process and you find the right labs. So for those products, we worked with labs that either already had similar products on the market that we could kind of turn into a gym-focused product, or work from the ground up, knew what we wanted, what kind of specifications we needed.
And so how many people were you at this time? Maybe give us a date here. So at what time did you have all 3 commercial products launched?
So the order was the spray, then the detergent, then
Okay.
the gym wipes, and the gym wipes launched 3.5 years ago.
Okay, so for about, you
years ago?
said, so for about 5 years then or so, 4 or 5 years, you were just doing the spray.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
And-
I was still finishing school,
Okay.
and then I had internships in school, and then after school, I took a full-time job elsewhere.
Okay.
So this was a side project for a very long time until it could not be a side project anymore.
How big was the team? Is it just you still?
It was just me for a very long time, but I just
Mm-hmm.
hired my brother full-time. So he is employee number 2.
Oh,
That's
fantastic.
exciting.
Yes.
So wait, so through this whole launch, so you decide, okay, I can't do this on the side any longer. What was that, the last straw that you said, okay, I quit, I can't do this anymore?
Well, I always knew the job that I had. I didn't want to do it forever, and I had this on the side, and it was kind of the same thing as when I was in school, and I couldn't make these products by hand anymore. That's when I switched to a contract manufacturer. When I had a full-time job, I was missing I had to schedule phone calls after hours. I was missing phone calls, and things just weren't
Writing
efficient.
was just on the wall.
Yeah, and I was up late. I was exhausted. It was just too much.
You were probably going to get fired anyway. So you
Probably
might
get fired anyway.
No, I'm sure not.
And yeah, it was really just kind of waiting until that point.
Okay. And so now you have, was it shortly after you decided to go with this full time that you moved into, beyond the commercial space? When did that decision point occur?
So a couple years ago, we put the products on Amazon just to see how it went, and that was the first time we've really taken a look at the consumer market. And it did pretty well on Amazon, even though the packaging wasn't for the consumer, the price point wasn't really ideal for the consumer, and it did decently well. And we just launched a new laundry detergent pod that's specifically for the consumer. So this is our first go around with the consumer market, 100%. But up until then, it's been commercial sales.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I'm just curious, as
monopolizing.
this kind of journey is going forward, how are you financing everything?
It was all self-funded.
So would you call it bootstrapped, let's say?
I would say
Perhaps.
bootstrapped.
But that also means you get to maintain control of the company as you see it grow.
Maintain control. And obviously, you always wonder what could have been. Like, could I have gotten the gym wipes and the pods and the laundry detergent on the market 5 years faster? Maybe. But yeah, like I said, we have complete control of what's going on. And I think there's also value added when you're looking at making sure you have a positive cash flow so you can finance those kind of things. And when you're focusing on that as early as possible, I don't think that's a downside.
And how many employees do you have now?
Just me and my brother.
You and your brother. So he's still with you, huh?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
So it's obviously a big switch to start selling to the consumer market. What have you had to change about your company to move from selling B2B to B2C?
So we definitely had to change the packaging. When you're selling to the commercial market, they definitely care about the packaging, but they care more what it costs and does it work. And the consumer market is actually roughly the same size as the commercial market, at least for laundry detergent. In America, the laundry detergent market's about a $10 billion a year industry, roughly 50-50 between consumer and commercial. So we already had some laundry detergents on the market, so that's why it was kind of an easy decision to expand into that route, knowing that we already had the product and the branding. We just kind of needed to get the pricing and the packaging lined up. And yeah.
And do you see kind of equal profits from both the commercial side as well as the consumer side?
Roughly. They're two completely different distribution paths. Like I said, up until this point, our main consumer distribution path was Amazon. The new laundry detergent pod just came out a couple weeks ago. And that's the only real consumer product we have at the moment. So it's to be determined.
And so this pod, as I'll read from the beautiful packaging, free and clear detergent, strong enough for gym clothes, but perfect for all laundry. So it sounds like you did a lot of thinking about whether you wanted to be just in the gym clothes, gym detergent market. What informed your decision to make it perfect for all laundry versus being niche?
Sure. So like I said, we had our laundry detergent on Amazon for a couple years, and it was doing well, but it was definitely in a niche, in a sub segment of the laundry detergent market, and we wanted to be a bigger portion of it, mainly because before us, there were sport laundry detergents out there, but they specifically advertised as separating your laundry, washing your gym clothes in one wash, your regular clothes in another wash, and it was just a hassle. No one does that. And our laundry detergent could do both, and we really wanted to stress that in order to grab a bigger portion of the market. So that involved a lot of rebranding and refocusing, especially on the packaging, because if people are seeing the packaging for the first time on the grocery shelf and they have no idea what Vapor Fresh is, no idea what it's about, you need to kind of tell your story right up front.
Can I ask, just kind of, thinking about your product portfolio now, how many iterations or versions of your product have you seen kind of grow in these 3 different categories?
It's funny you say that because I have a folder on Dropbox of pictures of what our product looked like over the years. And looking back, I don't even know how people bought those first couple versions because it was just not a good looking product.
But what about the formulation of the actual the cleaners themselves?
Yeah, so the cleaning spray actually stayed pretty consistent over the past 10 years now. There's always small tweaks to make, especially in this industry, because there's new ingredients coming out. There's new packaging components to take advantage of. So we did a couple small tweaks for almost all of our products along the way. I'd say only major reformulations, maybe once or twice for each product, aside from the spray.
Yeah, and do you find that people are using your product now for things outside of, let's say, athletic apparel?
Yes, but even within athletics segments, I didn't even think about. So the cleaning spray was originally for my own hockey gear, and obviously I've naturally thought of football and soccer and stuff like that. But boxing gloves are a pretty big portion of the market right now. Running shoes, yoga mats. There's a lot.
You name your Smelly.
Yeah, I got hot yoga probably.
Yeah. Now, so not to get too much in the science, but I am a little curious. Like, what is the formulation that's different? I mean, that you can attack those really stinky, sweaty clothes in a different way.
So I guess for our laundry detergent specifically, so we have a really cool, it's a brand new blend of cold water enzymes. Okay. And it allows us to do a couple of really cool things. The main thing is that when you switch from a warm or hot water wash to a cold water wash, you reduce your energy consumption by about 90%, and you save about 60 cents on energy cost. But the problem is when you switch from a warm wash to a cold wash, you lose a lot of cleaning power typically. But this is specifically designed for cold water. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there.
Shout out to my husband. You can wash smelly clothes, you're saying, on a cold water wash with Vapor Fresh.
Yes.
Sandy, we're good.
On top of that...
I think we just pivoted Bootstrap into hints with Heloise here.
We have, there's always arguments over whether you can wash on cold or warm.
Yep. So the 90% energy savings is huge. The energy cost savings is huge. So this is a new innovation. Laundry detergent, enzymes in laundry detergents is a fairly new phenomenon. I'd say the past couple of years, and every 6 months they're coming out with a new blend. And on top of that, gym apparel, workout apparel, they specifically recommend washing in cold water. So it was kind of
yes.
Yes.
It's a real thing. The struggle is real.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you that. So as we were talking, you were talking about with Holly Diarmond earlier about how a lot of times the life expectancy or the use life of gym clothes is limited because they smell.
Yes.
Is that a valuable to when you talk to partners? Like, could you see your Under Armour saying, "Hey, use Vapor Fresh so our clothes last longer"? Like, do you see that as a partnership, kind of bundling like that?
Yeah. And especially because that's not the natural life cycle of wicking apparel. That it really comes down to that not following the washing instructions of those clothes. So, for example, they all recommend avoiding laundry detergents with softeners or brighteners or fragrances, which are great for cotton clothes, but they're specifically designed to stay on top of the fabric after the wash is done, which traps in the odors and sweat and everything in the gym clothes, which is why you get the lingering odor after a while. So as long as you're using a laundry detergent that's free of those additives, then your gym clothes will last a lot longer.
I mean, I think it's incredible what all this potential is, but I'm still coming back to this kind of undergraduate at University of Maryland, studying economics, doing all this stuff in your dorm room. Why you? What is your secret sauce? What do you have that all these other people who've had this problem before didn't have?
I don't know. I don't think I'm doing anything special. I'm just kind of going along the path. And whenever you have a roadblock, find the right people to talk to, find the right people to ask questions to. I had no idea about contract manufacturing, especially when I was in school, and it took a lot of phone calls and speaking to a lot of people before I could call these people and actually have intelligent questions to ask them instead of the other way around.
So if you could go travel back in time and give advice to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Don't be afraid to get people on the phone, talk to them, reach out, ask questions. And Dingman Center was fantastic with that. But yeah, just reaching out to people and asking for help and asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sometimes with so much technology use and so much email and texting, it is something I think younger generations aren't as comfortable with picking up the phone and just calling. And so I think that is really important advice. Sometimes you have to get on the phone and ask these questions just to learn faster.
Yeah, and it's easy to dismiss someone if you just get a cold email, especially from if you're a big contract manufacturer, from a student that has an idea. They probably get those emails all the time. But if you call, then you know what questions to ask and you build that rapport with them. And that's how you bring this to market.
And so how do you go ahead and keep up on what's happening now to go ahead and think about future growth?
It's maintaining good relationships with your customers, with your manufacturers and your partners, just keeping your pulse on the market, taking the good feedback and the bad feedback, and just kind of bringing to market what people want.
What do you read? What do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of articles. Kind of all over the place, and not necessarily only business podcasts, because sometimes you get your best ideas from kind of looking outside the echo chamber and bringing specific ideas or new ideas into your specific market.
So you had actually, you'd mentioned that you were a fan of Bootstrapped, and you were talking about the episode that you listened to of Jason Cohen, who, as some of our listeners might remember, was known as the king of club because of how many different products like Skinny Pop, veggie straws he had sold in through Costco. And you said that was a major, listening to that podcast gave you some insight into the next phase of your company. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So even though we started in commercial cleaning supplies, we always had our eye on the consumer segment. We knew it was there. And I'd say 3 or 4 years ago, we just cold called our local Costco just to learn a little bit more about their buying process and their laundry detergent segment and just get a little bit more insight. And we got their feedback, we wrote it down, and we kind of put it on the shelf for later. And then fast forward years, and then I heard that podcast from Jason, and it kind of opened my eyes to another path into the consumer market, not necessarily starting with the smaller regional chains and working closely with a club store. And it kind of reinvigorated going to market, especially the product that we talked about with Costco, and it became front of our mind.
I mean, at some point, do you actually consider opening up your own manufacturing facility, or is there enough scale there you can grow with contract manufacturing?
There's a lot of contract manufacturers out there. And I think even once you expand beyond one, you can always work with a couple, and then you kind of minimize your risk geographically, or God forbid a facility burns down or something, you have backup plans. And so I don't see ourselves building our own facility.
Yeah, Seth Goldman talks a lot about with Honesty how I think he talks about the decision to buy their own manufacturing and how he look back on that. So, sorry, lost my train of thought. So, what's next? So, this obviously you're in a big push now. Vapor Fresh is getting on grocery store shelves. We can buy it online. Is that the focus of this year, or is there another consumer product that you're working on launching?
This is definitely the consumer product that we're focusing on. We still have a big geographical push for our gym wipes. There's geographical regulations behind disinfectants, so we only cover a small percentage of the country. So we plan on expanding that out pretty aggressively in turn with this consumer product as well. So kind of running on all cylinders right now.
I actually saw just a market you might not have thought of. When I was traveling in Europe this summer, I noticed that in some of the public restrooms, they were offering like wipes versus like the things that you usually put on the seats. So like you could wipe it off on your own. Anyway,
another one. Grocery stores have them on the outside to clean the pushing
clean
cart.
Your carts,
There's a lot of there's a lot of wipe markets
We're trying
out
to all
there.
be more clean. This guy. So, Stephen, as we wrap the episode, what advice would you give to an entrepreneur starting out in the consumer product space? So maybe not the food space, but kind of selling direct to consumers, maybe in the detergent or other related spaces.
Sure. So definitely market research. You need to speak to a lot of people. And when I say speak to your customer, there's a lot of people you need to speak to. You need to speak to the end consumer that's actually buying your product, but there's still other gatekeepers along that way. You should speak to the buyers of the grocery stores or whatever retail store you're getting into, any distribution that you want to try to get into. Because even if the consumer likes your product, if you can't convince them to bring it on for whatever reason, then you're still out of luck. And almost every single problem or roadblock you come across, there's a way around it. You just need to kind of plan for it and think about what your go-to-market strategy is going to be.
Thank you, Stephen. I also want to thank you. I know over the last couple of years, you've started to give back and mentor students through the Dingman Center. So thank you, and we look forward to continue to watch your success and growth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it was great having Stephen in studio. It's funny because he and I kind of just overlapped at the Dingman Center. He graduating just as I was starting, but I've known his story now over the past 8 years, and so it was just great to see how much the business has really grown.
And I think it's really impressive not only how it's grown, in terms of size and scale, but also in terms of products, in terms of the way in which they think about contract manufacturing, distribution, logistics. I mean, these are things that entrepreneurs have to think about, and it's very hard for early stage entrepreneurs to think through how to sell kind of a consumer packaged good product.
And I think it's interesting hearing him talk about the equipment managers, because if you remember in our Grip Boost episode, the equipment managers really do yield a lot of power because they make these decisions and they talk to each other. Particularly, I know you worked with the University of Maryland. It's helped him sell other places in the Big Ten, and he knows that customer really well, really well, and listened. And when the customer was saying, "Hey, do you also have detergent?" he acted on that.
And he pointed out it's not just that customer. There are several customers. He talked about the end consumer, all the different intermediate stages, the people who do, even the contract manufacturers have to agree to go ahead and manufacture your product. So there's so many customers within the pipeline that you need to go ahead and line up, and they can teach you something, right? They teach you about your product, about how to go ahead and service their needs, and potentially even to pivot into new spaces.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear. It'd be interesting to do a check-in with him and his brother, in a year from now, because they really have a huge undertaking in going into that consumer market and dealing with what the demand might be if things go crazy on Amazon or go crazy in the grocery stores. What we learned from another one of our previous guests, Java Zen, is that you have this two-part sales process, and they'll give you the order to be on the grocery store shelves, and you have to be able to fulfill that order and then help them sell the product so you can get the next order. So they definitely have an exciting year ahead.
No doubt. What a great learning opportunity for us to hear about his journey, and hopefully our audience will enjoy it as well.
Yeah, so it's exciting. So for all our most recent Pitch Dingman winners, great to see. Look at what Stephen did with the $500 we probably awarded him. I don't know what the net present value of that was in 2010. No, yeah.
Good for Stephen.
Yes. So another great episode. I hope this was a really important episode for any of our entrepreneurs who are working in a consumer product space, because it has a very different set of challenges than an app or a technology play. So it was really great to have Stephen here.
Agreed.
Well, thank you for tuning in to another great episode of Bootstrapped, a Dingman Center podcast. I'm Ilana Fine. You can follow me on Twitter at Ilana Fine or the Dingman Center at UMD_Dingman.
And you can follow me at Joseph P. Bailey. Thanks to all of our loyal listeners who download us all the time on the podcast app, whatever device you might use. And for all of our fans there at the University of Maryland in their dorm rooms, cooking up something new and interesting in their dorm rooms, we encourage you to bootstrap your next venture.